Hartelijk welkom bij Estafette. Wij staan hier aan het strand van Copacabana in Rio de Janeiro. Zon en zee, een reden om een boek te lezen. Hier vlakbij woont en werkt een man van wie 3 miljoen boeken per jaar verkocht worden. In zijn jonge jaren leidde hij een hippie-achtig bestaan en zwierf rond over heel de wereld. Uiteindelijk keerde hij terug naar zijn wortels, het katholicisme en Brazilië. Want hier wou hij zijn droom realiseren, schrijver worden. Mag ik u voorstellen aan Paulo Coelho. I was wondering, are you born in Brazil?
Yes, born in Brazil in 1947. That means that I'm 51 years old.
What's your family background?
My father he's still alive. He's an engineer. And my mother, she worked for a museum in Brazil. She's not alive anymore. And classical, typical middle class family. So when I was very, very young, I went to a Jesuit school, which is the quickest and fastest and most effective way to lose your faith. Because,
is it?
Because they try to impose you God. And they try to impose, it's not anymore, I guess. I think the Jesuits, they changed it a lot. I have several friends, Jesuit friends, and it seems that a lot of things changed. But at that moment, they used too much discipline. And they try to impose a kind of God that only have the masculine side, the God of, that it is much more like a lawyer than like a father. So I studied in that Jesuit school till the early 60s when the hippie movement arrived. And of course, it was the moment not only to quit the school, but to quit the establishment, to quit the faith and everything, and go traveling, to try to live my personal legend, to discover the reason why I'm here. Once in Amsterdam, I started to, to join all the types of, from Hare Krishna to, I don't know, Children of God.
Did you?
Yes, of course. And it was very, very interesting because I guess that it was the most important lesson I learned in my life. Be tolerant. Understand that everybody is trying to reach a point, and no matter what road she or he choose, if he or she has faith into his heart, well, they will get there. Jesus said, the house of my Father has many mansions, and I truly believe in that.
It's funny, though, that you came back to your religion of your youth.
But it took a long time. And I truly believe that you have to deny before you have to accept. The power of denial is something very important. Because then you can see the other face of the coin. You can see the things from a different perspective.
Todos os dias, Deus nos dá o momento em que é possível mudar tudo. O instante mágico é a hora em que um sim ou um não pode mudar toda a nossa existência.
I understand you were imprisoned during the military dictatorship.
Yes, this was, I think, the most horrifying moment in my life because it was in 1974. Brazil was under a military government that lasted for nearly 20 years. And I was very, very, very crazy. I had a kind of underground magazine. I used to write lyrics for pop songs, not typical Brazilian songs, but well, rock and roll, sorry, Brazilian rock and roll. Anyway, and they considered that to be subversive. So I was arrested. And it was the most difficult time in my life because we had no human rights here. We had nothing. So they used, like happened to me, they put a hood in my head, they took me to a jail, and there I was. And by the way, during this period, I tried to get the support from the religion of my childhood, the Catholicism. And I couldn't get any support because I was reading St. John of the Cross.
Were you?
Who is a mystic, a Spanish one. And he talks about the dark night of the soul. And I remember that I was in a totally dark cell, you know. So I thought, I'm blind, I don't know what's happening. And there was a siren day and night. And you got crazy because you're alone, you cannot see anything, and you are naked, you are living under very difficult circumstances. They can hurt you without touching you. They can drive you crazy without putting a single finger on you. So I remember St. John of the Cross. And I said, perhaps this is a moment where I shall try to live the process of the dark night of the soul. But it didn't work because I was scared to death. You know, so in fact, the idea that faith is something that you held when you are desperate, I don't believe in that. I believe that faith has its moment of, you know, sometimes you need when you are desperate, but when you are, again, back to the water into wine, when you are living a life full of joy, then I think you are close to God also.
How did you survive?
Oh, how did I survive? I don't know. I think that, well, God is mercy, and He was seeing me, and besides that, I think that the most difficult part, it was not the prison, because it's very concrete. It is the paranoia that remains inside of you.
Do you still dream about it?
No, not anymore. But when I left the prison, I was scared to death. I was unable to do anything. And every time I feel like, you know, they were following me or they're bugging my telephone, and which was only my mind. But I had the prison in my soul. I had the prison in my heart. And it remained there for 3 years, 4 years. One day, of course, time is a very wise doctor. It heals you from broken, you know, hearts or from very difficult experiences in life. So one day I woke up and I said, no paranoia anymore. If they are going to arrest me, they will. I'm going to die, but it is okay. That's part of life.
O medo de sofrer é pior do que o próprio sofrimento. E nenhum coração jamais sofreu quando foi em busca dos seus sonhos.
But back to my religion, to the Catholic religion, it was my pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela. When I returned to my religion, that it is in my blood, not because it is the best, or the one that holds all the truth. No, I don't believe in that. But because it is in my blood, it is easy for me to understand, to accept in all my heart. You know? So after doing the pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela, two major changes came into my life. The first one, face your destiny. Don't be a coward anymore. If you want to be a writer, write a book. Face the possibility of not finding a publisher, of being, you know, hated by critics, or no matter what, of didn't find readers, but write a book. Huh? Don't postpone that idea. In one of my books, The Alchemist, there's the crystal merchant who is always postponing his destiny, because he thinks from the moment that I fulfill my destiny, I will have no challenges anymore and I'm going to die. It's not like this. So from that moment on, first I wrote a book. Second, I learned that the extraordinary of life lives among common people. So all that idea about sects, about esotericism, about New Age, about you know, secret societies, they were, you know, like childish things. If you compare them with the real life, and real life is that you meet normal people, you meet a taxi driver, and probably on your way to the airport, this taxi driver is going to tell you something very important, that it is an answer for a fundamental question in your life. And if probably you go to a priest and he's going to say, you know, something that it doesn't matter at all. So I do believe that our guardian angel uses other people's mouth to talk to us and to give us the clues, the omens, the signs to help us to fulfill our destiny.
I wonder, are there special places in your life?
There are special places in my life. Lourdes, in France, where Notre Dame de Lourdes appeared. This is another sacred place for me. I spend every New Year's Eve there. So now they ask, what are you going to do in the New Year's Eve of the year 2000? I'm going there.
What do you do there?
I pray. I think this is a very good moment, and it is very silent, very cold, of course.
Where? Specific places?
In front of the growth. I don't know. Yeah. In Lourdes, where Bernadette saw the Virgin, and so at 10 to midnight, it started to arrive people. It is very cold, and normally it is raining. And you are there, and but it is a very special moment for me, because it is the moment that you say yes to your next year. Because Bernadette was considered to be crazy and out of her mind, and also the Virgin, you know, someone who said yes to life. She could easily say no. I think when the angel came to the earth, he had several Marys, right? And probably he went to 2 or 3 who said no, 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 no. But that one said yes. And that changed everything. It's so difficult for us to say yes for life. It's so easy to say no. No, not to this, not to that. But the most important lesson from Mary is that say yes. You know the limits, but say yes to as many things as you can.
Do you read the Gospels?
I do read, less than I should. But I read, I travel with a small New Testament. There are some parts that are difficult to understand. There are other ones that you only understand after living through this situation. And this is what is very magical and special in the Gospels. It is because they are totally unexpected. You think, for example, that the father who has 2 sons will prefer that one who stayed with him and worked with him and didn't spend his part of his money. And all of a sudden, it is the prodigal son who has the benefit. So I like that. I like that this this kind of so-called contradiction, but it is not. This is the true revolution.
You recognize yourself in the prodigal son?
No, I don't recognize. Well, I think that all of us should have that, should go away and return, like the rain, like the water. If you stay in the same place, you are still water. You cannot drink that water. However, if that water evaporates, became a cloud, and returns under the same form of water, that water brings the wisdom of this journey that it made from the pond to the sea, to the sky, and again to the sea. That water will manifest itself under the form of water, but in a different place, probably over a tree or the sea. That water is going to travel. So I do believe that we have to be in constant change, and this is the miracle of life.
You created the Institute Paulo Coelho. What does it stand for?
The Institute Paulo Coelho was created some time ago, and I was always, I didn't talk about that because, okay, I'm back to Christ. He said, if one hand of yours gives something, the other hand should not know. Right? So I created the Institute Paulo Coelho, first of all, because I think that we are responsible for everything that happened on earth. And it takes care of children, of old people, of Brazilian prehistory, and there is an anarchical part of it that I decided what I'm going to do, and there is a fifth, translations of Brazilian authors. But my contribution is the easiest one, is only to give money. It is my wife who works. It is people who are there who works. They are giving their time, their life, and they are trying to change. And I believe that this homeless children, they are not homeless.
Street children.
Yes, they have families, right? But they live in favelas, in the slums. I try to do my part, a very small part. As I said, it's very easy to say, okay, it's just to write a check. But the heroes are people who go there and use this check to work, to create conditions for these children to be the seeds of a new generation that understand that love exists, that they are not, abandoned, that it is possible to change, and that people of goodwill exist. I don't include myself, but I include people who are working there. And if you see that people of goodwill exist, they start to believe in life. If they start to believe in life, everything changes.
Quando você quer alguma coisa, todo o universo conspira para que você realize esse desejo.
Was Jesus a guru?
No, guru. Jesus was the Son of God.
How do you understand that?
I understand the Son of God. People, as I was telling, we should respect some dogma. And it is very easy to give scientific explanations, philosophical explanations. You should be much more open to accept the mystery of this sentence. I mean, not you, but we, the Son of God. He sent His Son to the earth, and His Son came to the earth. And then it may sound totally silly, like it may sound totally silly that there are three people in one, and it may sound totally silly that Mary was virgin, but it's not silly. It is, as Carl Jung said, the dogma are the utmost manifestation of human thought. The theologies, they come and go, and the dogma remain. So sometimes you be humble in front of the mystery, and you don't explain, you just accept. Because please remember something. 10 years ago, it was politically correct not to believe in dogma. Because we thought reason can explain everything. Reason can explain life, death, and all the philosophical questions. And all of a sudden, we realize that we have a different perception, a much more feminine perception, where things influence our lives, not directly through our brains, but through our heart. And things that go inside of us, through using the road of the heart, they really change our lives. On the other hand, the brain is always absorbing and throwing, absorbing and throwing. So, Immaculate Conception, the idea of something that had no beginning and of course no end. This is something that is so strong, so overwhelming, that either you totally reject or you accept fully. There is no such a thing as understanding the dogma. The dogma is, as the words say, a dogma. You accept or you don't accept. And more people start to be much more humble and say yes to things in life. Not to social injustice, but to the mysteries of the spiritual world.
What role does that feminine side of God, the Virgin, what role does she play in your life?
Love, acceptance. I learned when I was young that God was law.
Well, how do you picture God? Who is God
as
to you?
a verb, nothing else. This is the question that I only have this answer. You know, never picture God, because God is not a subject or a predicate. God is the verb, is the action. He is the verb, and she is the verb.
In River Piedra, you talk about the kind of mystical union between the seminarian and the Virgin. I wonder how your readers reacted to that.
I would say that besides the mystical union, that is very easy, of course, it's very easy to surrender, to leave everything and to look only for the love of God. Because it's easy to love God. It's very difficult to love your neighbor. When you love God, from the very beginning you don't expect anything, and if something bad in your life happens, you blame yourself, you don't blame God. However, if you have to open your life and your heart to your neighbor, then the things start to get a little bit more complicated. Because it's not more this kind of, so-called, love, agape, as we said in Greek. It is a love that is full of challenges, of disappointment. So people used to sublimate his incapacity of searching and finding love in this earthly plane for the love of God. I don't believe in that. You cannot separate. This is the basis of alchemy. This physical material world is a projection of the spiritual world. It's the visible part of God, but it's not everything. However, you cannot separate. You have to consider that as also a physical, the temple of the spirit, you know? And you have to use that with respect, with, of course, dignity, but with without the feeling of sin and denying this physical world. No, not at all.
Só caminho por onde qualquer pessoa pode passar é capaz de nos levar até Deus.
You say somewhere, I don't know in which book, that it's better to die in the course of following your dream than not following it at all.
Because you're going to die anyway. So if you die in the middle of a good fight, as St. Paul said, then you can look to yourself. You can look to the child that you were 10, 20, 50, 60 years ago and say, I didn't betray you. I lived my life fully. And I'm dying. Every day is a good day to die, as the Indians say. So you can look to yourself and say, okay, I live my life fully. As Frank Sinatra, no, Paul Anka said, I traveled each and every highway, and I did it my way. I love this song because you are totally committed to your life.
I wonder what object you have chosen for us.
I chose, of course, something that I always carry with me, that it is a chaplet, how I say that in English? Rosary.
A rosary, yes.
That it is, they say, I don't know if it is true, that they developed that in the First World War, that they have to pray and that they cannot carry the classical rosary, so you put in your finger and then you have the 10 Hail Marys and then you do like that all the time. And when I'm, in airplanes, I live in airplanes and airports and when I have time, I start just to repeat and repeat and repeat a prayer. And this is very good for your health, very good for your mind. It detaches you sometimes from, some oppressive moment that you need time to think. And then you relax and you pray. And I always carry that. I lost one like this that I had for nearly 10 years 1 year ago, but I bought another one.
In the pilgrimage, you say that the way is very important for common people. You stress the common people in your books.
You know that there was always this dictatorship of information. If you look to a government and you say, who is the most powerful man? It's not the president. It's the one who controls information, intelligence, because that one knows everything. J. Edgar Hoover is in the FBI, no matter which government was there, because he knew everything. And unfortunately, the church, the religions, the spiritual search went through a period of we know the things and you don't. You stupid people. So, and we believed. We forgot that Jesus Christ himself said 2,000 years ago, there is nothing occult that has not been revealed. He said that. So, I myself, I went through this process. I forgot that everything is only a matter how you see the things around you. And therefore, I choose the difficult path. But mean by difficult, not the narrow one that Jesus referred, but the complicated one, the sophisticated one, the one that I attributed power for people who wrote complicated books, had complicated rituals, you know, things like this, till I realized that God was not a dictator, he was democrat. Therefore, if she is democrat, she should distribute the wisdom or the grace or revelation to everybody, not to the chosen ones who had the power or who had money to buy complicated books. So when you start to look around you, then you start to realize that everybody has some spark of divine light to share with you. But the only way for me to realize that, as I am very stupid sometimes, it was by doing a pilgrimage, searching for such a complicated thing like a sword, you know? But I had to do this pilgrimage. And then, looking around me, realizing that everybody knew anything, even if they are not conscious. Huh?
In the fifth mountain, Elijah asks everyone to choose another word in order to start a new life, or to, it's a kind of characteristic. What word would you choose?
My name. This is very important. This is part of most of the religious traditions. You choose another name. Huh? But I would choose pilgrim. I like that. Someone who is traveling. Because life is a journey from birth to death. And we see something, we tend to see something very, very, well, simple, that every day is the same as the next one. It is not that. It's like a pilgrimage. You are changing your surroundings every day. And that's what I would choose my name as pilgrimage. And I would like you to ask you, which name will you choose for you if you have this choice?
Searcher.
Good.
Thank you very much, Paulo Coelho, for joining us, for sharing this pilgrimage with us.
Thank you very much for inviting me, for coming to Brazil, and I hope that you enjoy your pilgrimage here.
O diabo mora nos detalhes.